Joining us now from Washington is Republican strategist Lisa Boothe. She's also the president of High Noon Strategies. Good to see you, Lisa.
Hi, Vlad. How are you doing today?
Good, good. Super Tuesday. It seems like it is Donald Trump's night to lose. He's leading in most of the states voting today. Is there anything that could blunt his momentum right now?
That's a good question, and that's to be seen tonight. As you mentioned, it is Super Tuesday. This is a big day for the nominating calendar and the nominating process. There's 595 delegates at stake for Republicans. As you know, this is a delegate game. You need 1,237 out of the 2,472 delegates to the convention to try to clinch the nomination for Republicans. So that's what Donald Trump's going to try to do. And tonight's a big night. As I mentioned, you've got a huge bulk of delegates at stake. But it's also important to remember that right now we're still in the proportional part of the nominating process, which means that other candidates like Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz can also accrue delegates after tonight. So, he could potentially walk away with a substantial portion of those, but other candidates could still stay viable after tonight.
So there's this anti-Trump super PAC that has posted a new ad online attacking him on the growing controversy over Trump University, calling it a scam, and it's set to air in markets across the country. I want you to take a listen, and then I want to get your reaction.
At Trump University, we teach success. That's what it's all about. Success. It's going to happen to you.
Former students say Trump University was a scam, costing up to $35,000 for an unlicensed illegal school that offered no actual degrees. Now accused of intentionally misleading thousands of students, Trump is facing massive lawsuits for fraud and what one state attorney general calls fraudulent, illegal, and deceptive conduct.
So, Lisa, this Trump University story has been out there for quite some time. Juliana Goldman here at CBS News covered it. You're a strategist. Is this a little bit too late to do any damage to Trump's campaign? I mean, why wouldn't they have come out with this earlier?
Well, and they probably should have. And we haven't seen as much of the paid media behind some of these attacks towards Donald Trump, more specifically with his business dealings. I mean, there's been a lot of questionable dealings throughout his history as a businessman. A lot of those things haven't necessarily been called into question, at least with paid media behind it. So it's to be seen if these have an effect. But, in some respects, it may be too little too late. And the biggest problem right now for Republicans who don't like Donald Trump is the fact that you still have a lot of the vote being split among, quite a few different viable candidates. You still have Marco Rubio in the race, Ted Cruz in the race, John Kasich in the race, Ben Carson in the race. And so it's going to be very difficult to try to defeat Donald Trump until that field winnows down, until, it's a one-on-one sort of contest, or at least with three people in the process or in the primary competition right now.
Let's talk Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio. Neither of them have won or at least come in first in the past few contests. I mean, Cruz had Iowa, yet they still claim that they're doing well. Can anything other than an actual win tonight be spun as victory? I don't know if you saw Talladega Nights, but in the words of Ricky Bobby, if you're not first, you're last.
Well, and that's a great quote, and that's what's difficult for a lot of these candidates, because part of this is staying viable. It's about money, it's about momentum, it's about keeping voters engaged, it's about keeping donors engaged, so you have enough money to put up paid media in the states that you need to win to try to clinch that 51% that you need to try to win the Republican nomination. So it is difficult. And if you're someone like Ted Cruz, you absolutely have to win Texas tonight. Not only does Texas have 155 delegates, which is the largest, amount of delegates that a candidate or a state or a caucus represents tonight, but it's also his home state. So you have to win your home state to be able to stay viable in this contest. And if you're Marco Rubio, you really do have to win, because he has had the momentum. And he's been able to do that, and there is a lot of support behind him, but you still have to win, and he's not been able to do that so far. So maybe the Minnesota caucuses represents an opportunity to do that, but you have to win at some point to stay viable in this thing.
So let's also talk about Marco Rubio. I understand with Ted Cruz, but Marco Rubio has been on this campaign trail with a much stronger attitude. He's been attacking Trump. He's been joking a lot about Donald Trump. Same question about this super PAC ad. Is this just a little too late? I mean, he's still looking to Florida, but the polls show him losing in Florida to Donald Trump.
Well, and I think what Marco Rubio needs is for the field to winnow even more. And, the problem is you've got John Kasich, who is talking about staying in this thing till March 8th with the, Michigan contest, which he thinks that he could do a lot better in Michigan than some of these states and caucuses in areas, contests that are going to be voting today on Super Tuesday and tonight. But so that's the problem for, Marco Rubio is he is losing in his home state of Florida right now. Granted, we're still pretty far out from that March 15th date. And in politics, that is forever. That is a significant, long period of time between now and then. But, he does need to start winning.
What do you envision for John Kasich and Ben Carson after today?
Well, it's John Kasich has his eyes set on March 8th. He's made that very clear in interviews and with this campaign strategy. So I think that's what he's looking forward to is that March 8th date when Michigan votes, and he's going to have to win Michigan or, come in second or be able to demonstrate somehow that he deserves to stay in this thing till March 15th when Ohio will vote, which is his home state where, he's governor. So that's going to be an important contest for him. But if you're Ben Carson, I just think it's really difficult to make the case that you're a viable candidate. I mean, he doesn't have any wins under his belt. He's not come in second, and he's almost essentially been deemed irrelevant in this process. So I think it's very difficult for Ben Carson, unless he walks away with some second place finishes tonight, for him to make the case that he's any sort of a viable candidate.
Lisa, before I let you go, I got to get your reaction on Speaker Paul Ryan coming out today, making some comments. Even on Twitter, he put out something essentially saying that the Republican Party does not prey on people's prejudices. I think it's really interesting. I wonder, are you hearing that the GOP feels that there are people who believe that, or is this just a reaction to Donald Trump and his dodge of the question of the KKK that was posed to him over the weekend?
Well, look, and I think Donald Trump's dodge was, that's bad. That's not a reflection on the Republican Party, and I think it's cowardly. I don't think that Donald Trump is a racist per se, but I think it was cowardly to not condemn that and to say, no, I absolutely don't want this endorsement. But, Paul Ryan is correct. It's not reflective of the Republican Party as a whole. I mean, even look at what the Republican Party field has consisted in the candidates that have been running to be contenders in the Republican Party. We've had 2 Hispanics on the ballot. We had the first Hispanic ever in a major party to win a nomination or a caucus ever in the history of the United States, a Hispanic, which was Senator Ted Cruz. We've also, as I mentioned, 2 Hispanics that have ran, an African-American who's been a very viable candidate throughout this process, really up until recently, as well as a woman who's a former CEO of Hewlett-Packard. So, I agree with what Paul Ryan's stating, and I do think that that is an accurate depiction of the Republican Party.
All right, Lisa Boothe in Washington. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you.